All right, let's talk about one of the most useful and, honestly, most misunderstood tools in a web developer's arsenal, session storage. Just think of it as the web's temporary whiteboard. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see exactly why that's the perfect way to describe it.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been deep into filling out a super long form online, maybe a job application, and you accidentally hit the refresh button and poof, it's all gone? It's the worst, right? Well, that exact infuriating problem is what we're here to talk about today.
To really get this, let's use a simple analogy. Imagine you have two ways to jot things down. First, you've got a permanent notebook. Stuff you write in there stays forever unless you go out of your way to erase it. That's kind of like another tool called local storage. But then, you've got a whiteboard. It's perfect for temporary notes, for working things out, and when you're done, you just walk away and it gets wiped clean for the next person. That whiteboard? That's session storage.
So what is this thing, officially? Well, session storage is a web storage API. And here's the key part. Any data you put in it survives a page refresh, which totally solves our form problem. But, and this is crucial, it's completely wiped out the second you close that browser tab. It is temporary by design.
And that brings us to its most important feature, something I like to call the one-tab rule. If you can get your head around this one concept, you've basically mastered how session storage works.
The whole thing comes down to its scope. Unlike other ways of storing data in the browser, anything you put in session storage is locked down tight to the specific browser tab where you created it. It's completely, totally isolated.
Okay, let's see what this actually looks like. Imagine in one tab, tab A, you're on step 3 of a big application. Your website can save that progress, something like form progress equals step 3, right into session storage. In this tab, everything is working perfectly. But now, what happens if you open the exact same website in a new tab, tab B? Well, that new tab gets its own completely separate and totally empty session storage. The data from tab A doesn't leak over at all. The browser treats them like two different worlds.
So let's just hammer down these rules of engagement. First, persistence. It survives a page refresh. No more lost form data. Second, isolation. The data is locked to a single tab. And third, lifespan. You close the tab, the data is gone forever. Simple as that.
Okay, now that we know the rules, it's time for the main event. Let's throw session storage in the ring with its siblings, simple variables and local storage, and see exactly where it shines. So let's break it down. You've got your basic variables, right? They die the second you hit refresh. Useless for our problem. Then you have local storage. It's a powerhouse. It persists forever and is shared across all your tabs. That's great for stuff like a dark mode preference. But session storage, it hits that perfect sweet spot. It survives the refresh, but stays completely isolated to just one tab.
Theory is great and all, but where does this actually make a difference? Let's take a look at how session storage gets used out in the wild for some really powerful real-world wins.
The absolute classic example is that multi-step form we keep talking about. A user fills out the first page, and you save their answers to session storage. Then they move on to step 2, or maybe they refresh the page by accident. No problem. The data from step 1 is right there waiting for them. It makes for a totally seamless experience. But hey, it is not just for forms. Think about a banking app. You definitely want sensitive account info to vanish the moment that tab is closed, right? That's a perfect job for session storage. Or what about remembering a user's filter settings on a shopping site? It's great for that one session, but when they open the site in a new tab, they get a fresh start. So when you add it all up, the advantages are pretty awesome. That tab isolation prevents all sorts of weird bugs where one tab's activity messes with another. The auto cleanup means you write less code. The browser is your janitor here. It tidies up for you. And all of that leads to better security because sensitive data isn't just left lingering around forever.
All right, you've got the fundamentals. Now let's level up. We're going to get into some expert moves, the pro tips and the common pitfalls that'll really help you master this thing.
Okay, here are the gotchas you've got to watch out for. If a user clicks a link that opens in a new tab, that new tab gets a fresh empty session. Makes sense. But, and this is the weird one, if they duplicate a tab, the session storage actually gets copied over. And one last reminder, just like its cousin local storage, it only stores strings. So if you've got an object, you got to remember to use json.stringify.
Now you want a real pro tip. If you're building a single-page application, you can use session storage to clean up those messy URLs with tons of parameters.
Just grab the parameters when the page loads, stick them in session storage, and then use your code to clean up the address bar. The data sticks around for the whole session, but your user gets a nice, clean URL. It's a slick move.
You know, when you really think about it, session storage is kind of the polite storage mechanism. It remembers exactly what's needed for the task at hand, and then, without you even having to ask, it cleans up after itself when it's done.
It's just a really powerful tool for creating smoother, safer, and way more logical user experiences. So I guess the only question left is, now that you know the secret of the web's temporary whiteboard, what are you going to build with it?